Hi, everybody. Welcome to our second session about everything you need to know about the London Business School. If you haven't seen our first session about the London Business School, look down here somewhere. We did it last week. It was really good. And I think I covered quite a lot of general information about London Business School. Just a little reminder about myself. My name is Shimri Winters. I'm a former London Business School student, and I'm a graduate of London Business School. I actually used to interview candidates for London Business School after my MBA. And I come from a computer science degree before my MBA. And post-MBA, I went to work in consulting. So that's a bit about me. Just a tiny bit about Aringo. This is our only marketing slide. I'm not a very marketing person. What does Aringo MBA admissions do? Everything. We help candidates get into top MBA programs. Okay, so if you need help with your schools, choosing the schools, the strategy, and obviously helping with the admission process itself, application and the interview, we're here for you. That's it. We're very good. Yeah, we have lots of good stats. Check us out on aringo.com. That was our marketing slide. Okay, let's just get on to this session today. And again, if you don't know much about London Business School, there's another session from last week, which is a very general session. This is what I call an advanced session, okay? This is a session for people who are thinking about applying to London Business School and want tips on how to apply, how to maximize their profile and their application. So I'm going to dig in to the actual London Business School application, and I'm going to talk about the application components. And you can see here, you need a CV and essays and recommendation letters, and there's an online application and then a video interview and a face-to-face interview. It's a very long application process. And this is a live session. So you can start writing me comments on YouTube. I can see your comments live. This is actually going to be kind of an interactive session, but I'll probably ignore most of your questions and answer them at the end. So stay tuned. This is quite a long session. And again, I'm going to go through all the components of London Business School. So I hope you enjoy it, but start asking questions if you want. Okay, I hope you're ready. This is just my little reminder. Again, there's an hour and a quarter session about London Business School down here somewhere. But this is just a little reminder about London Business School. Yes, this picture on the right is a real picture. It does look like a palace. If you look to the other side behind this picture, you will see Regent's Park and Regent's Park Lake in the middle of London. It's an amazing location. It's an amazing business school. It's been going on for 57 years. You can see the number of alumni, and alumni come from nearly every single country on the planet. Lots of clubs, professional clubs, clubs of interest. Amazing in every single business school rankings. This is one of the best business schools in the world. I touched the degrees last session. I just wanted to mention that London Business School has two core types of degrees. Let's call them business and finance. So in finance, there's a master in finance, part-time and full-time. And in business, we have degrees which are for people with less than 2 years work experience, like the Master in Management, people with more than 2 years of experience, like the full-time MBA, and people which are very senior, like the Sloan program, which is a full-time program, or the Executive MBA, which is a part-time MBA. Again, there's more information in the previous presentation. I will try and touch the entire application of all degrees. It's going to be a bit difficult, but we'll try. These are just some of the recruiters who came to campus, I think it was 3 years ago. And as you can see, nearly every big company comes to recruit from London Business School. A lot of them are American companies or global companies or Asian companies or European-based companies. Great school and great recruitment opportunities at the end of the MBA or any other of the degrees. And I was asked about this quite a lot in the previous session as well. So great recruitment opportunities. Okay, I was trying to speak as fast as possible. And I hope I did that fast in whatever we are, 6 minutes. And now we can actually dig in to the application process of the London Business School. So this is just a little reminder. What is an application and what is the timeline? I think we touched this again in the last presentation. Basically, there's several rounds for each degree. The dates are a bit different, so I'll just mention the MBA round. There's a round 1 in September, a round 2 in January, a round 3 in February, and a round 4 in March. And all of these rounds are for the studies in the following September. Try and submit as early as possible, although try and submit when you're ready. I always like to say round 2 is better if you have 20 plus points in the GMAT or if your profile is a bit better. So yes, submit early, but only when you feel that you're ready. Once you submit, the school will review your application, and if it's positive, they will invite you for an interview. We'll also discuss there's a video interview component. And after the interview, the school will discuss your application and will decide if they decide to give you an offer or not. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the application. Okay, let's dig into the actual application. I'm actually excited. I've never done a presentation like this, which is quite deep about London Business School. So let's start. If you want to apply to London Business School, I urge you to apply. It's a great school. You will need the following things, okay? They mention you need an undergraduate degree. I've had quite a few. I probably have 2 candidates every year without an undergraduate degree. So even that is possible, but you have to be an outstanding candidate. You will require a GMAT or a GRE. There's no way around that. For executive MBAs, you can also use the EA. And for Sloan programs, there's also some GMAT waivers, but that's for candidates with a lot of experience, okay, over 10 years as a minimum of experience. If English is not your first language or you didn't study in English, you will need a TOEFL or IELTS, which is an English proficiency exam. If you speak English, but it's not your mother tongue, this exam is quite simple. And again, we discussed before briefly, but some of the degrees, for example, an MBA, require several years of experience. I think they mentioned they require 2 years as a minimum. My advice would be at least 3 years of experience for full-time MBA. And so on. You can look in the executive MBA in the Sloan, even in the Master in Management, there's some kind of requirement. In the Master in Management, it's actually the other way around. They don't want you to have more than 2 years of experience. Let's say you have the prerequisites. Now there's the actual application. And as you can see, the application components are a CV. Okay, I think all business schools require a CV. That makes sense. There's several essays that you'll need to submit, and we'll discuss those very shortly. And you do need 2 references, and we'll discuss those as well. So 2 recommendations. And basically, those are the 3 big components. At LBS, there's a very big component that we'll discuss, which is the online application. And that, again, is a big component that there's a lot of stuff that you need to apply there, and you need to fill out there. You need to pay £200, and you need your undergraduate transcripts. If you do all that, the school, and you apply before a certain round, the school will look at your application. Okay, so let's touch each of these components, and let's start with the CV. So I used to be a programmer before my MBA, and I don't remember much, but I think my CV said can program in Java. I think it had some technical issues, technical stuff like I know to use SQL Server. Okay, and that's good when you're a programmer and you're looking for a programming job. But that is less important when you're applying for an MBA. And my business school CV discussed other stuff. So first of all, I described my company because it was a known company in my sector, which was billing, a very big IT company that was selling billing software to mobile phone operators, but it was not known to people outside of my industry. So it's very important to have a company description. By the way, even if it's Google or Amazon, you can describe the department that you're in, you can describe the product that you're working on, etc. I didn't describe what I was doing. I described my responsibilities. For example, I wasn't describing that I program in Java, but I did. I think my first line in my CV said led 2 people, because this is my responsibility. I led a little team of 2 people, and I was in charge of a budget. So maybe in charge of the budget. Obviously, if you have any awards or something like that, that's great. Another thing is maybe connecting the CV to your goals. So if your goal is to work in the food industry and you don't have any food connection in your CV, that's not so good. And you can use various sections in your CV, and I'll discuss that shortly, to kind of show also your passion, not just your professional, day-to-day experience, but also things that you do beyond your workplace or even beyond your, academics. So I wrote that here, yes. So the extracurricular activities, you can definitely use them to supplement different areas and different specializations you have, or skill sets that you earned outside of the classroom and outside of your professional work experience. I actually have here a whole CV that we're going to go through together, but here's just an example of how to write like a company description, so and your job title. And again, instead of a lawyer dealing with real estate, you can see that this example, we actually wrote biggest law firm. Okay, so it's kind of picturing to you what kind of law firm I work in. I actually mentioned in Germany, so you know where this law firm is. I'm leading a team of 4. Okay, so you can see I have lots of responsibilities. And I'm giving here $, yes, 10 million to 30 million projects. I'm showing you like I work on big projects. I'm in charge of a big budget. So that's a very good example of, a bad title and a very good title. Let's dig into each of the sections of the CV, and I kind of wrote here a CV. I hope you like it. It's completely made up, so sorry, but none of this is true about me. So as you can see, I started with the education section. LBS don't ask to start with the education section or with the professional experience section. You can decide. I say whatever's more impressive. Okay, so if you studied in a very good university and you got a very good GPA, start with education. If your work experience is very impressive, start with the work experience. There's no summary at the beginning. There's no statement. There's no, I love riding horses. Now here's my CV. No, we just dig in MBA CVs. It's very, very tight, 1 page, no picture. We just dig into, these are the bullets. These are my biggest achievements in each of my life career points: education, extracurricular, professional experience. That's it. So here's my education. I think it's pretty straightforward. I kind of started with my university name. I put the years on the right, and I put the GPA. Okay, why did I put the GPA on the CV? It's not a requirement, but this is a very high GPA. So I decided to highlight my strengths. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I also put a scholarship that I received. I think that's very special. And I showed that I really was involved. How was I involved? I was head of the student union and the venture capital club. Wow, I'm not even sure that's possible. But if it is, I was very active in university. So I think that also shows that I'm interested in venture capital. Perhaps my essay that we'll discuss in 10 minutes will be about venture capital. And maybe I was a programmer. But I can show that I'm enthusiastic about venture capital because I headed a club or took a course or something like that. I think that's a nice way to show, and I'll show you this again in my extracurricular activities, something beyond the professional experience that can hint on my ambitions and who I am as a person. Okay, the majority of the CV, again, I don't know if it's half or 2/3. It depends on your experience. And by the way, all these examples are relevant for all the programs. It's the same CV format, 1 page, whether you're applying with 30 years of experience or 1 year of experience, same format. And yeah, I've had a 56-year-old. I'm actually working now with someone above 50 who just has 30 years of experience. And he's applying to the Sloan program, and we have to squadge everything up into 1 page. That's a requirement. And that's, when London Business School look at it, that's part of the process. They're saying, can you, show me the best you can on 1 page? Okay, so here's my professional experience. I just gave here my current position or first position or whatever. And as you can see, I'm actually describing the company. So I'm saying consulting on financial and strategic matters. And I'm actually showing who I'm working with, Fortune 500 companies. And I started with a leadership bullet. You see, I lead a team of 3. That's amazing. And I think the second bullet, oh, see, I didn't. I already put in the first bullet also obtain 30%. Okay, so there's some kind of percentage, and I did something which has some kind of quantifiable result, 30% of something. This CV doesn't need to make too much sense. Okay, I just put some stuff together. And here I added another bullet. Okay, less important. If I look at my previous position, you can see I put a number there. Okay, 400 million. Okay, something impressive, and Ministry of Defense, etc. And it's also very clear that I was promoted, right? Because I had a certain position between 2017 and 18. And then at 18, I continued in the same company, but I was a senior business analyst. So I had some kind of promotion. That's also something you can mention in the bullet or let the titles speak for themselves. It's pretty obvious. Okay, so to put a bullet now, promoted to senior business analyst in 2018 is less important. Maybe if it was special, like promoted ahead of time or promoted first among my peers, okay, maybe that I would mention. I don't know. So that's a professional experience. If we look at the community experience, that's also something important. If you volunteered, I think that's good. The schools want to see that you've done something which is beyond the actual professional work experience. I like people a lot of times ask me, I don't volunteer anywhere. Is it important? And my answer is, listen, it's not important for the sake of volunteering, but schools want to see that you have something beyond academics and professional experience. I call it a dry cookie. Don't be a dry cookie, a dry biscuit, okay? Be someone interesting. And when I used to interview for London Business School, I used to ask myself one question: would I want this person that's with me right now in my class? And yes, GMAT and CV, and he's got an amazing GPA. But if he's a really boring person, and if I ask him, what's your passion? He says, I love to work. And what do you do beyond your work? I don't. I work 13 hours a day because I love, this is just a very boring person. So you don't have to volunteer for the sake of volunteering, but if you do something interesting, that's great. And I think you can see that I've supplemented my CV with other information here. For example, if you look at the first bullet, the business clinic bullet, first of all, I led a team of 5. So I'm showing that I've managed people. Maybe I didn't do that in my professional experience. Second of all, I put a number here, $20 million. That's interesting. I think what's more interesting is expanding to China. I actually put an international experience in my community experience. Okay, why? Because this is what I had. I wanted to show international experience. I don't have any in my professional experience, but I managed to put something through my community experience. I'm sure the questions on the chat are, but I don't have international experience. Well, if you don't, you don't. Okay, every person has what they have, but try and play the strongest cards that you have. If you do something very interesting, volunteer somewhere interesting, community, or have even an interesting hobby, you play beach volleyball, that's nice. Okay, I think I put here, here, guitarist in several amateur rock bands. Not true, I don't know to play anything on a guitar. That's interesting. Okay, I would love to hear more about that. Traveled to 34 countries, that's very impressive. Now, lived in Singapore for 3 years as a child. Well, as a child may have been a long time ago, but it shows some kind of international experience, and it can be other stuff as well. Okay, it can be lots and lots of stuff. It doesn't have to be these bullets. So I've been speaking a lot, and I forgot this is an interactive session. So apart from the actual text in the CV, this is something crucial, and I've seen this problem time and time again. Looks matter. Okay, your CV format is very important. Now, I would never, ever do a presentation and show this CV as an example, because I actually inserted in this little page, I think I put around 8 or 9 formatting mistakes. This is your time. I'm looking at the chat. Let me know if you can identify a few mistakes. I'll drink my tea meanwhile and sing you a song. La, 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 la. No, I'm not going to sing a song. Come on. In the chat, who can see a formatting mistake? This is a live session. That many. I'll give you another 3 seconds. Okay. I'll wait and I'll talk a bit more. So, like I said, looks matter. Okay, this is crucial. And maybe you thought this CV looks good, but it doesn't, does it? So someone, Ramit, okay, I'm going to mention your name. That's your prize. Okay, not aligned. Right, correct, Ramit. And you mentioned the year isn't aligned. Okay, fantastic. Okay. So Benjamin, actually, you found one of the difficult ones. Okay. Font, capital letters, broke lines. Okay, you guys, I'm starting to like what you're writing. Bold, good. So I'll give you another 1 or 2. I've hidden a couple more. Alignment issue. Okay, I think Manvi, you're right. I've actually hidden quite a few alignment issues here. So let's look at them one by one. Okay. First of all, let's start with the alignments. Okay, alignment to the right. I think I can't remember who said first. Ramit. Okay, you said the years aren't aligned. Look at the right. Okay, 2016 to current. The current should be aligned to the right with 2008. By the way, both of them can't be more to the left than China. Okay, because something's wrong there. So maybe you remember my previous slide. You know, everything was nicely aligned to the right. Something's wrong here. Let's look at the left alignment. I am starting to remember what I've hidden. So the obvious one is if you look at the 2 bullets at the bottom in additional information, from some kind of reason, their indent is much higher than the other ones. Can you see? They're more into the right. Bit strange. So they should be more to the left, right? Can you see where it says Aringo Youth under the business clinic? There's a bullet and then it says Aringo Youth. From some kind of reason, I decided to put 3 spaces there. It should be aligned with the business clinic. So there's so many alignment issues in this little, you know, how many others? 8 lines in this CV. Okay, I did. So I've actually, the last comment found one of the little things I've done. Nice, very good. Can you look at the first line? Well, the second line where it says my phone number. Then there's this nice straight line. It says my email. And then there's a backslash, right? So I've decided to change the line to do it once straight and once like this. Why? No reason. You found most of the things. Did you see, I think 2 of you mentioned that the additional information, from some kind of reason, the other sections were all in capital letters. Additional information I decided to do in lowercase. Why? I don't know. And I did it in bold. Okay, so that's silly. And those were the main things. I hid one small thing. I know it's really small, so it's going to be hard to see. Under Aringo Youth, there's a bullet that said volunteered full-time for national. There's 2 more. Volunteered full-time for national service year working with disadvantaged youth. I think that's a great thing. I decided to put a dot at the end of that line. Can you see? After youth, there's a little dot. Why? I don't know. I didn't put any other dots at end of lines. Actually, there was one more that, yeah, full stop, correct. There was one more that none of you found, which I'm disappointed because it's actually a very important one. And it's the $sign. Okay, so if you look at under the business clinic, I led a team of 5, right? And I did something strange. And the company is now worth $20 million. That's fantastic. Can you see how I wrote dollars? I wrote the $sign, 20, and an M. That's fine, by the way. But if you look under Aringo Youth, the second bullet, I ran a marathon. I raised 15 million USD. Okay, by the way, this is fine as well, but use one format. Why am I using 2 different formats? Oh, I have so many ideas how I could have done this. I could have put euro as well, and you know, why not keep to one currency? So such a small section of my CV, right? This is like the smallest part. This might be a fifth of my CV. And I think we showed here like 8 formatting mistakes. So the content is more important, okay? The content is 95%. But still, when I open a CV, and maybe it's me and I don't know, petty or something, I would, these things would probably jump out and I would kind of say, this guy isn't serious. Okay, like work on the alignment to the right. Let's start with that. So this is also something important. Okay, looks count. I think I did the CV nice, and oh, how beautiful. Okay, align to the right, align to the left, capital letters. Okay, so I hope you like that a bit better. No full. There's no full stop. I took that out. Did I change the dollars? Yes, I even changed the dollars. Okay, to the same format. So that was just an example how looks matter. By the way, it's mainly in the CV because the CV will be uploaded as a Word document or PDF. Usually the essays are just text, and the formatting is a bit less important. Okay. Okay, finding mistakes was fun. Thanks. I only thought about that last night. So Terence, I'll start doing that in my in my next presentations as well. I was a bit worried at the beginning that you didn't find stuff, but I think you found everything beside the dollar sign. Okay, that's the CV. Okay, now let's move to the essays. Okay, now London Business School essays are actually, this component is actually a bit shorter than a lot of the other applications. If I look at a certain business school in the middle of nowhere in France, which is a great school if you like studying in the middle of nowhere, they have 7 mandatory essays plus optional. Okay, London Business School has 1 or 2 mandatory essays. So the essay part is a bit shorter. Actually, I find that as a disadvantage. I would love to tell the school as much as possible. So it's very, very hard to answer just 1 or 2 essays and give them, my full story, especially if you're trying to overcome a low GMAT or a low GPA, or you have an interesting story to tell and you just don't have enough words. So, we'll look at the essays, but my first suggestion, I know it sounds a bit strange, but it's just to think, okay, and strategize before you actually begin, and think, these are the 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 things I would like London Business School to know about me. I would like them to know I'm super academic. I would like them to know I'm very professional. I was whatever. I got a fast track promotion. I would like them to know I'm interested in venture capital. I would like them to know I'm a fun person because I like windsurfing. So think what the things that you want to tell London Business School are. So start by strategizing. I know it's an obvious thing. I think I'm going to say this like 5 times. Make sure you answer the questions. Okay? The questions are very specific. We'll look at them in my next slide. You'll see the Master in Finance essay has 1 or 2 things that the other essays don't. Make sure you answer them. It actually asks them which geography you're going to work when you graduate. Just answer that. Make sure you don't answer, oh, I'm going to work in private equity and I'm going to change the world. But where? So just make sure you're answering the question. Yeah, I wrote like, tread carefully when you go outside of the actual question. Listen, it's okay to start with, when I was a child, my grandma told me to always brush my teeth, okay? It's okay to start with something like that, but do that very carefully, okay? Why is that relevant? Okay, and then my grandma became the most important person in my life, and since then I cherish my grandma. I really cherish my grandma, but it's just not relevant for London Business School's essays. Okay, so just make sure when you're going out of this, of the box, it's okay to go out of the box, but just make sure you come back into the box and make sure there was a reason why you went out. Okay, yes, connect your goals to the degree, and I'll give you an example shortly of how you connect what you like doing with what you want to do in the future with the actual degree. Actually, let me tell you one right now before we look at one, at an example. And my example would be, I'm a programmer. I've worked in programming all my life. Outside of work, I love sports. And I do fantasy football. By the way, this isn't me. So I do fantasy football and I play basketball with my friends. Okay? And I want London Business School because I want to learn a lot about management and entrepreneurship and marketing and finance. because I want to open a sports tech company. Okay, so I showed my past, right? I showed I'm a programmer, but I also showed my passion is sports, and my post MBA goals will be sports tech something. I combined all that together, and I want London Business School for a reason, because I'm going to learn some stuff that can help me get to my goal. So that's what I mean. Connect your answer to your goals and where you can to the degree itself. Yeah, stay modest. Okay, I put this actually twice, humility and modest. This is very important. Let the facts speak for yourself. Okay, if you lead a team of 4 people and you're 24 years old, that's impressive. It doesn't matter in what industry you are. If you graduated cum laude, that's impressive. Okay, you don't need to go through, mention it. If you have a very high GMAT, that's impressive. If you're the first person to go to university from your family, that's like, these are good stuff. You don't need to go on and on about them. Okay. On the other hand, if there is something that's not clear, yes, this is the place to mention it. Okay. Last, when I work with candidates, I actually worry when I get a question, can you please share with me past essays? So first of all, go on aringo.com. We have, I think, 500 past essays online for every single school you can imagine. Okay, we have past essays. The worst thing is to recycle essays. First thing is, business schools have software to check. Okay, so try not to copy stuff. Second of all, is not just because they can check that you've copied it, because if I'm reading your application and this is all just too familiar. Familiar means boring. Okay, I don't think you copied it, but I've seen this kind of profile before, and I've seen this kind of story before. Like, this isn't going to work. Now, trust me, they've seen every single profile and every single story, but still, try and tell your story. Okay, so try not to recycle. Okay, let's look at some examples. And you can see I'm trying to talk very general, trying to talk also about the MBA, also about the Master in Management, the Master in Finance. And the reason I can do this in this presentation, I love it, is actually all the essays are very, 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 very similar. Okay, so the MBA essay is, what are your goals? Okay, and how will this degree help you? Fantastic. The MBA essay is very, very similar. It provides a personal statement. Okay, and basically, they want to know, how are you going to benefit from London Business School, and how will the community, the MBAs, benefit from you? Okay, so basically they're asking, why do you want the degree? Part of the answer will be because my career goals, right? So it's a very similar essay to essay 1, maybe a different emphasis there, but very similar. MIF essay, MIM essay, identical. Okay, why do you want this degree? What are your career goals? Like I said, MIF, Master in Finance, MIM, Master in Management, yeah. So Master in Finance has, what alternative are you considering? What geographical region? Fine. So they have a little twist. But again, this is maybe 30, 50 words out of a 500-word essay. The rest of the essay is similar. So let's go actually through an essay. So I'm giving you a MBA example. How do you actually choose a goal? And this is very hard. You might be very young. You might not know what you want to do when you grow up. I'm old. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. So, that might be a legitimate question. All I can say is, close your eyes. Where would you like to see yourself in 20 years? Okay, open them. Maybe I should do a calm voice and a bit of meditation music. Okay, so a lot of people say, I've done this in a room, and they said, CEO of Google, head of marketing at Facebook. Okay, well, these are very, very, very senior positions. So in that case, I told them, okay, that's great. Just close your eyes again. Think maybe of another position. So he said, okay, not CEO, but head of operations in a mid-sized tech company. And someone else said, I want to be a founder of my company. Now, these are great goals. Now let's think, how does your past experience, together with the MBA, together with your post-MBA first and second position, how will they connect and work towards your, post-MBA long-term career objective and dream? And you can dream, okay? Be creative. and dream far, okay? And shoot for the stars, whatever. Shoot for the moon. You can only fall to the stars. Be ambitious. I gave you an example. It's a very silly example. Just wrote it today, like spontaneous, so it's not a real candidate. But I started this essay with, I love restaurants. Okay, not a very good statement, but maybe I should have said, like, I love food, I love noise, I love, people dining, I love to hear the cups clinking. Okay, I love to make people happy. Okay, I think that's a very interesting first sentence. Like, yeah, I want to read this. I just want to see what does he want to say. So I think that's a very good start for the essay. By the way, this structure is definitely not the right structure. There's many structures to start this essay. You can start with your career goals. You can start with your past. You can start with why MBA or why London Business School. I started with a very random sentence, but I wanted to kind of explain to the school what I'm passionate about. And then I said, at 18, I started working as a waiter and gradually built my way to I don't even know if there is a thing, the dining ladder. Okay, but gradually was promoted, and now I'm a restaurant manager. Now, this is a very tricky sentence, the one I said, because we really don't want to repeat your CV. They have your CV. They can see waiter. I don't know what comes after that. Senior waiter, shift manager, restaurant manager, chain restaurant owner. Okay, so they can see this in the CV. Okay, I didn't repeat myself. I just said, listen, at 18 I started as a waiter and I built my way up, and now I'm a manager. Wow. Okay. And I just kind of mentioned that again. This is definitely not the right way or the wrong way to do it. I would definitely put here many more achievements and steps that I had along the way if I really would describe my my entire career, and I would definitely make this at least 150 words. And then I kind of spoke about my career goals. My dream is to open a restaurant chain in London. By the way, I threw in here London. There's already a connection of why LBS. And to do this, I'm missing A, B, and C, maybe financial knowledge. Maybe I'm missing a brand of a business school. Maybe I want to raise money and I want to know how to raise money, or I want a network of investors. So here I can explain why MBA, why London Business School. So that's a way to answer this essay. Again, if you have the Master in Management, just make sure, and the Master in Finance and the MBA, just make sure you're answering the prompt. So we saw Master in Finance asked, and in which geography? Okay, so here I answered in London. And they asked there, what's your alternative? If I don't open a restaurant chain, I would like to manage my, an existing chain of restaurants, or I would like to work in the hospitality section in hotels, or I would like to work in India. Okay, fine. So maybe for the MIF, it was just missing, entering the exact prompt. So that's essay number 1. It's a very, very tough essay. Wait till we get to essay number 2. Okay, so essay number 2 is actually different between the various degrees. So the MBA essay number 2 is actually optional, okay, and completely optional. Is there any other information you want to share? Okay, it's very optional. I'll discuss that in a sec. Let's just look at the other essay number 2s, and they're actually very, very similar again, okay? So the MBA essay comes from a different angle, what it would be like to be an alumnus of the school. Okay, so basically, how will you contribute to the community after you graduate? The MIF and the MIM essays are actually kind of similar. Where will you contribute as a student, and where would you like to learn the most? Where would you be contributed? So what are you excited about, and how will you help the community? And again, the MBA one is kind of similar. Maybe it's a bit more as an alumnus. Okay, how do you want to help the community and maybe enrich them with something? So those 3 are kind of similar, kind of. The optional essay for MBAs, you could use in the same way if you want. You can use it in the same way. I want to help the community as an alumnus or as a student. You can also tell a completely different story that maybe complements some of your personality or your professional experience or any other skill set. I would say use it only if you feel that you really need the optional essay. And actually, my strategy for MBAs is I like to write essay number 1 first. I like to write it, and I tell my candidates, the ones I work with, like, just write it as long as you want, okay? And let's write it, and let's look at it. And sometimes it can be 1,000 words. and it's really good 1,000 words. Okay, like I wouldn't take anything out. It's like everything's there, but unfortunately there's a word count limit. You're only allowed to submit 500 words for essay number 1 for MBAs. And then I say, okay, let's take out 500 words, but we're not going to chuck them. We're not going to throw them. We're going to use them for the optional essay because this shows another side of your profile and in your personality. So that's my first tip. Use, leftovers from essay number 1. My second tip, and again, don't write an optional essay if it doesn't add value. Okay? If you're just going to give me there a shopping list of clubs at London Business School that you're interested in, if you're just going to tell me stuff that I already know and it's on your CV, it's just, don't use the space. I prefer a short application that speaks for itself than just, someone who's just talking a lot. Okay? But like I said, if you do have another angle, if you have another story, yeah, let me know. And here again, I just wrote this morning. It's, not very good, but I just tried to give another angle. So yeah, it's a bit similar to I love restaurants. I love photography. Oh, I love lots of things. And here I wrote like aiming the camera and waiting and capturing a moment is the best day, and I can unwind from my work and something like that. Okay. And then I started with my passion. And then I said, at my college, I founded a photography club. And at London Business School, I plan to also, I think there is a photography club, by the way, but I plan to found a club, or maybe I'm going to manage it or help. And you could actually add here, I'm going to help students who have never picked up a camera, take professional photographs for the first time. And maybe I'll, I don't know. I was going to say maybe I'll help connect business and photography together. I'm sure there's stuff like that. So here I showed a nice example that can answer any one of those degrees. Second question, how you're going to contribute to the community, maybe how the community contributes to you. Yes, because you love photography and you'll go out with the club and take pictures of stuff. And that's just an example. And by the way, it also complements my past, because I actually spoke here about founding a club in my college. Again, if you mention this 3 times on your CV, if this is mentioned in essay number 1, throw this essay. Don't write me an optional essay or write me something else. Okay, don't just use the space because Shimri said it's important to use the space. Okay, this is a very long session. I think I warned you in advance. It's a good time to stop here. I'm going to just drink my tea. If you want to drop here and join later, again, this session's on YouTube. You can do that anytime. We have lots of examples of essays and CVs and recommendations, everything on our site, aringo.com. And I will be answering questions at the end of this session as well. But let's continue. So we come to the third element of your application. We said the first one is the CV, and the second one will be the essays. London Business School, 2 essays. The third and one which is sometimes ignored are the recommendation letters. The good thing about this is you don't need to do much. The bad thing is you need to take this very, very seriously. Ideally, when London Business School look for a recommendation, they would look for your direct manager. And if you're not using your direct manager, that's fine. I think a third of my applicants do not want to use a direct manager because he will fire them. He won't give them a bonus. They don't want to tell him they're leaving. But you might want to explain this somewhere, for example, in the optional essay. You might not. But definitely try and use 2 professional recommenders. I just put here down the questions. The London Business School recommendation, I think it's the longest recommendation requirements in the MBA sector that I know, and I think I know most of the recommendations for the top 50 schools. There's actually 5 open questions to your recommender, and there's also a rating table. Let me explain what it means, an open question. When you go into London Business School application, you will only give 2 recommenders details. You will give their emails and their names, and that's it. The recommender will actually get a link which he will have to fill out about you. When he presses that link, he will get these 5 questions. So he can't write, you can't upload his recommendation, and he just can't write a general recommendation. He needs to answer these specific questions. And they're very, very specific, as you can see, right? The first one is just how do you know the applicant? Okay, the second and third are the applicant's strengths, applicant's weaknesses. The fourth question is actually, how is his performance and how is he in comparison to the peers? The fifth one is actually quite challenging to your manager. Where does he see you in 10 years? So this is a very long recommendation. Apart from the recommendation, there's a rating table. Now, I really love London Business School. This is the best business school in the world. You won't hear me say anything bad about London Business School, except this. The rating table, the recommender will have to rank you from 1 to 5 from some kind of silly reason that I've never understood. 1 is the highest grade and 5 is the lowest. If your recommender marked everything 1s, okay, but it's a great recommendation, I think London Business School are smart enough to understand that he thought, if they mark everything 5s, I think London Business School are, even I got confused, are smart enough to understand that 5 meant very good. Okay, so don't worry about that too much, but from some kind of reason, if you are warning your recommender in advance, 1 is a high score, 5 is a low score, a bit strange. And I just wrote a bit of some tips here. And again, it's really recommended to bring a professional recommendation, either from your direct manager or maybe your manager. Ideally, 1 from this job and 1 from your previous role. Again, that will only help around 50% of you. And the other 50% will have issues giving me those 2 recommenders. Maybe they only had 1 manager in their entire professional career. Maybe they don't want to use that manager from various reasons that we discussed. And fine. Okay, so maybe that manager just won't write a good recommendation because he hates you. Okay, so all that's fine. You don't need to ask me right now in the chat. You need to strategize a second and think, who can I choose as my 2 best recommendations? And who will maybe emphasize different things that are, that again, can complement my other skill sets. Okay, maybe he can say something else that can be very positive. And yeah. A good recommendation is, again, a professional one and someone who's very positive and, can say, very subjectively, you are great. Okay, I think I overdid it here when I said Shimri is the best. But yeah, I think it's very clear. Okay, now recommendation isn't a objective statement. Shimri got the highest score out of. No, I love working with him. It's terrific. He's great. He's doing the best job out of his peers. Something like that. A recommendation is very, very, very long. Like we saw, 500 words times 5, up to 2,500 words. So find someone who can actually do that and knows that he needs to write examples. Okay, so what are Shimri's biggest weaknesses? Shimri is not very good at listening. No, that's not enough. Shimri is not very good at listening. For example, when he came at the beginning, I gave him lots of tasks, but he did it his own way. Well, that's actually horrible. I hope your manager won't write that. I gave him lots of tasks and he didn't listen and he went and didn't work on them. Okay, but here's a nice example. Okay, obviously I would like that example to continue with. After I gave him lots of feedback, he really took my advice seriously. And today he's the best listener at work. Okay, I would love that Shimri turned it around into a strength. But again, you saw there was a nice example here. I think I wrote the obvious, help them to help you. If you're choosing a recommender, you can write them some bullets and just say, listen, don't forget that, I got the highest bonus in the company. And please don't forget that, before you were in the company, I was actually promoted very quickly and you heard about me good things. Okay, so you can try and help the recommender with, don't forget or something like that. Right, we're nearly at the end. Oh, this is a long application. And actually, we're getting to a very tedious part of London Business School. A lot of people tell me, great, I have my CV, I have my essays, fine, my recommenders have submitted, and the deadline's tomorrow, so I'm fine. I'm just going to go into the site and fill out, the details. And I'm like, oh, no. So in some business schools, it works like that. All you need to do in the online application is upload your CV and your essays, and you're fine. At London Business School, the online application is very, very long. And something obvious to me, but maybe I didn't mention, is all the application, the CV, the essays, the online application, and also the recommendations have to be submitted before the deadline. Okay, everything, including the recommendations, have to be submitted. You miss the deadline, you're going to be moved to the next round. The online application is very, very long. Again, this is the longest I've seen in any business school, and I've seen long ones. So allocate for this time. This is something obvious, but again, I see it in 1 out of 4 or 5 candidates. There's a lot of repetitive stuff. They ask you, we'll go through this, but they ask you about your role, your current role, your previous role. And suddenly I see stuff that isn't on the CV. Like I see, and I used to do pro bono consulting to my family business. And I'm like, you can't write this in the online if it wasn't in your essay, in your CV. Okay, so this has to be all correlated. Sorry, I got really upset with someone a few days ago. Like it was two different people. One was in the online application and one was on the CV. Yes. So it's okay if it's a bit repetitive. And again, London Business School have a lot of text boxes. They're very long. Just, you're going to have to do this a bit, you're going to have to do this seriously. Plan this ahead. Don't do this on the fly, open the London Business School application, but write your answers in a Word document so you can work on them offline kind of thing and think about them a bit and, I don't know, spell check or whatever. So you do it kind of in the best possible way. Okay, I just gave some key questions out of the online application. And so the key questions are, yes, there's a very long section about your employment and about your previous employment and your previous employment. And they ask about your responsibilities. And they also ask, why did you take this role and why did you leave your previous role? And it's a bit tedious and a bit tiring. And again, an answer can be, I left my previous role and I took this role because I got a big fat promotion and a lot of money. Okay, it can definitely be like that. And just make sure you kind of explain your responsibilities and your kind of what you do on a day-to-day activity. So a lot of times I work with consultants. And here, I really want to kind of understand who you work with, who your interactions are with. Maybe you're on a client site, maybe you're at home, maybe you're in the office. Kind of want to know this kind of stuff. Another question I marked here is such an important question. I've only seen it at London Business School, but I love it. And it's, does your academic, I'll actually read it. Do you feel that your academic performance so far gives an indication of your potential? Let me explain. If your GMAT is a bit low, you might want to mention it here. No, I feel I could have done much better at my GMAT, but it doesn't indicate about my potential because my GPA is perfect. Or no, my GPA is lower than I could have gotten, but I was working 150% during my degree. And as you can see, I scored a 790 in my GMAT. That would be good. And, I'm very academic. Okay, so, or yes, I feel that my 790 and my 4.0 GPA represents me in the best way. Again, it doesn't have to be 790 and 4.0. Okay, it can just be, 700 and 3.5. Yes, I think it represents me. That's fine. But again, you can use this section if you feel that you have a lower GPA or lower GMAT. What job function are you aiming for? Again, don't forget to correlate this with the essay we wrote. Why are you going to London Business School? What are your career goals? And last, but definitely not least, is schools really want to see that you're interested in them. And there's 2 ways to do this. Remember I said before, be careful when you're copying stuff. Well, before, and I think it was in the CV or in the essay, I think actually, I said kind of be careful of copying stuff from others. But here I actually meant be careful of copying stuff from yourself, maybe from other business school applications. And if you're copying your Oxford or Cambridge or INSEAD or Harvard application to here, that's great. But still, in your essay, try and emphasize why you want London Business School. And this is another place, apart from the essay, to emphasize that, I've attended 2 webinars, I've spoken to 3 alumni, I've spoken to 2 professors. There's a reason I really want London Business School. I've done my online research. I've been researching you for 3 years. Okay, show the school that you really want to attend it. It really is the best school in the world. So you're not lying. It's a great school. Okay, I think we're nearly at the end. So I'm just going to go back to that little diagram that we showed at the beginning. And if you remember that nice diagram, I should have hit it here, but I didn't. So we submit the application. So we've submitted, right? We've done the GMAT. We have an undergraduate degree. We wrote a CV, essays. Our recommenders submitted their recommendation. And we did the online application. Whew. Okay. Even I'm resting a bit. So let's say you do all that for the first deadline, which is at the middle of September. Now you have some time. You can go and relax, go and see your family, watch some Netflix, do whatever you want, go to the beach. You have about a month till London Business School will let you know what they've decided. And again, there's two decisions here. It can either be we want to move you to the next stage, or it can be a rejection. Okay, so if it's a rejection, finished. Okay, sorry, you cannot apply to London Business School again this year. You'll have to wait a whole year till you can apply again. And maybe we'll do another session about re-apps, because that's not so easy. They will check your previous application and you have to show a big change. But still, that's a possibility. Okay, that's a negative possibility. Now the positive possibility, yay, you got an interview. Now London Business School added 3 years ago a component, which is also, it's been added on other schools as well, which is called a video interview component. It's not a very difficult one. I wouldn't be too dramatic about it. Basically, you go online with a special link that you get from London Business School. Again, I just want to say at London Business School, this is a bit unique versus other schools. You only do this component if you receive an interview, okay? And it's in addition to the actual interview, which we'll discuss in our next slide. So basically, you receive 2 questions. You have a prompt, okay? And then you have 40 seconds to think about the answer, and then 90 seconds to record an answer. The system is very intuitive. If you're really worried, we've actually developed a system very similar on Aringo when we plugged in like previous year questions, so you can practice for hours, but it's pretty intuitive. You can practice a few times on the live system. Once you say this is the real deal, that's it, you start recording. And usually you get 1 question which you know in advance and you can practice. Okay, so what will you gain from London Business School? You can definitely repeat some stuff from the essay and try and add some new information. Okay, for example, and my wife is also going to study at King's College, and we want to both live in London. Okay, that's something that's not that important for the essay, but I could, throw that out here in the video essay in the last 4 seconds. So, there's stuff like that you can do, but basically, yes, I think it's pretty straightforward. You want to answer why you want to go to London Business School. The second essay, the second question that you'll get is usually a behavioral question. And again, it's you can't prepare for it in advance. I think they have like a couple 100 questions and they randomly give you one. And some of them are harder than others. Okay, I definitely agree. What's a tough one here? A team member not pulling his weight. That's not an easy question. And if I didn't prepare one in advance, it might be quite tough. But again, these are not, it's not a face-to-face interview. You have 40 seconds to think about it. Check out our site. We have, 30, 40, 50 questions that we've, put there. You can practice, but again, and if you get a different question, so it's a bit hard to practice, but, I think you're okay. And that's exactly the aim of this video interview. They kind of want to throw you a prompt that you haven't prepared for, and they want to see how you can deal with it. Okay, so a bit hard sometimes to practice too much for this. I wouldn't put too much pressure on this kind of section. You'll still get the face-to-face interview. The face-to-face interview is one that you need to focus on. Basically, the interviewer will decide if you will be getting an offer from London Business School and getting accepted or not. Now, the interviewer, again, I'm not saying it's 100% weight, but the interviewer can mark in his interview notes, this is the best candidate I've ever seen, jump on him, take him, offer him a scholarship. If he marks those kind of notes, then I think you're in, okay? So, and he can also mark, mediocre candidate, could make it, could not make it, and then they would give a higher weight to what you've done in your actual written application. By the way, this is the last section of this presentation. So you can start preparing your questions, and in about 6 minutes, we're going to get into the questions. So I thought this would take an hour, and it did. So we're bang on time. So the interview is very important. In previous years, it was a face-to-face interview. COVID changed things, and there were a lot of online interviews this year. I really hope the face-to-face returns next year. In many cases, especially in MBA and Master in Finance degrees and in Master in Management degrees, it will be an alumnus who's interviewing you, but not necessarily. In MBA programs and in Sloan programs, I've seen more admissions that are interviewing, but again, it can be either. What I would do is, first of all, if you receive the interview email, yay, now calm down, rest a bit, read the instructions very clearly. For example, in the MBA, there's some kind of presentation, and I'll cover that, but basically read the instructions, make sure you know what's headed for you. In the executive MBA, you actually need to prepare a presentation for your interviewer. In previous years, it was a written presentation. And actually, I think last year, they suddenly said, we do not want any slides. It has to be oral. That's quite tough to present something without slides. So just, read the instructions. You'll get the video interview and this face-to-face interview together. So just, make sure you know what to do. They'll usually tell you to schedule the interview with your interviewer. Makes sense. I put here, send a CV if needed. Actually, this is a mistake. And at London Business School, unlike other schools, your interviewer will get your entire your entire application. So when I used to interview for London Business School, I used to get a PDF of like 45 pages, including your stats, yes, the GMAT and your age and your GPA, your CV, your essays, your recommendations, your online application. That was 30 pages. So your interviewer will actually get everything. I put here something at the interview stage, but actually this should be in your initial stage. Google yourself. Okay, just make sure that LinkedIn, your titles are very similar to what your CV says. Okay, it's not so good that your CV says, CEO of Coca-Cola, and your LinkedIn says student position at a not good company. Okay, so just make sure things align, because I would I don't know if I would Google you, but I would definitely LinkedIn you. Okay, I would definitely check if you're on LinkedIn and what does it say there. And obviously try and prepare some answers to questions. I'll show you like the popular questions. Again, at the MBA process, there's also a presentation at the end. We can discuss it maybe in the next slide. So the big questions, the regular questions, probably for any business school, but definitely for London Business School, are, walk me through your resume. And a lot of times the admission committee members won't ask this, and alumni from schools would. But again, this is something you should prepare. I'll give you some tips in the next slide. By the way, the next slide is the last one before your questions, so you can start preparing questions. And this is one which actually takes a couple of minutes, okay, to answer. You can go chronologically, you can go reverse chronologically. You start with your position. There's no right or wrong answer here. Just practice it a bit. Then there's a few what I call basic questions, which we kind of answered in the essays. Why do you want London Business School? Why do you want an MBA? Why do you want an MBA now? What are your career goals? Now, we discussed everything in the essays. You should definitely repeat the same mantras. Yes, you should definitely say the same career goals, but obviously it's in a different way. Okay, and can practice again all these questions. Another kind of basic questions are strengths, weaknesses, what's your biggest achievement? Okay, tell me about something at work, stuff like that. This is actually one of the toughest questions I've seen. Like when candidates are asked, like, what should we be concerned about you? And a good answer isn't, nothing. It's like you need to think about something smart to say. And also you should prepare some questions to your interviewer. So this is the last slide, okay? Don't be spontaneous with the interview. You have to practice for it. Even if you're Mr. Cool and you never get nervous and you've done lots of job interviews, the MBA interview is very different. Check out Aringo. We do interview preparation, but practice. Use the mirror. I don't know, but practice, okay? Walk me through your CV. I actually did an interview prep session last week to an amazing candidate. Okay, amazing. I read the application. I really couldn't stop reading it. He's a consultant at one of the top companies. He works with amazing clients. He really works very hard. He was magna cum laude, whatever, in his master's degree and undergraduate degree, and he volunteers. Amazing CV. And then I said, walk. Now, he was a bit nervous, okay, when we did the prep. I'll say that. I said, walk me through your CV. After 32 minutes, I didn't stop him. After 32 minutes, he looked at me and he said, is it okay that I also tell you about my hobbies? I was going like, sure. 32 minutes. Now, if this was a real interview, I think about after 6 or 7, I would, I don't know if I would start WhatsApping with my wife, but I would get really bored. I don't know if I would just interrupt him or let him speak. But okay, so obviously you have to be very conscious to yourself and to the interviewer. I think 3-4 minutes if you have an amazing experience about walking through your CV. The rest, or walk me through a resume, or tell me about yourself. The rest of the answers should be between 1 minute and 2 minutes. That's it. Okay. Be positive. Okay. Even if you were fired, even if you're saying a failure story. Okay. So what did I learn from this? Even if you had a not very good manager, explain something positive about that. And I learned that maybe I can manage my manager, or I can help someone that lacks communication skills. Obviously, do lots of research, okay, about why MBA, why LBS. By the way, it's fine to check on LinkedIn your interviewer, see who he is, she. Maybe they come from some kind of joint experience, okay? Maybe they also come from consulting. Do I have another? Yes. Sorry, there is one more slide. Give examples, okay? What are your 3 biggest achievements? What are your 3 biggest strengths? Well, I think I'm a great communicator and I think out of the box, and I work very hard. For example, we had a huge case in my work where no one could solve. I was given the case. I worked all weekend, so worked very hard. I actually thought of something different, out of the box thinking, and it did involve a lot of quantity calculations, quantitative, but communication skills. But I used other departments' knowledge, and I went to them, and they helped me. Good communication skills. Okay, so that's how you kind of answer a question. All that between 1 and 2 minutes. For the presentation, again, it's hard for me to give you specific tips, but basically the MBA, the full-time MBA asks you to give a little presentation about a topic that you haven't seen before, a bit maybe like the video interview. You have 5 minutes to prepare and 5 minutes to answer it. I think there's another YouTube session of me from 2 or 3 years ago, more hair maybe then, answering, how to work on the London Business School interviews. You can check that out. But basically, what's important in the presentation is answer the question. A lot of people used to give me lots and lots of good answers, but they weren't answering the question. Okay, last slide. I promise. I used to interview for London Business School. Okay, I interviewed tens of candidates. I hated candidates who didn't answer my question. I hated candidates who spoke a long time. Okay. I love this candidate. Okay. He really was impressive. Again, international experience, consultant in one of the big firms, amazing experience, internships, volunteering. And I asked him, great, like, why are you going to London Business School? Why not another school? He said, well, it's actually my second choice after Harvard. And I said, that's really good. But the person I spoke to this morning, he was less impressive, but it was his first choice. I think I'm going to give him the spot, not you. So, okay, make sure you're talking about London Business School. Never be late. And something which didn't happen to me too many times, but still I didn't like it very much, was when someone kind of name dropped 3 people through the application, three people that I knew. And he kind of said, oh, and Tom sends you his regards. And he did it kind of aggressively. And I just didn't like that. But that was me. And that's the interview. And I can't believe it. This session, How to Get into London Business School Part 2, has concluded. So, as it's a live YouTube session, I'm actually going to answer your questions. If you haven't answered questions so far, please do so on the screen. Please check us out on aringo.com. So much information on our website. We've been going on for 18 years. There's so much information there. If you want to send me a personal email with your GMAT score and CV, feel free to do that as well to my email. And have a lovely day and a good application for London Business School if you decide to drop off now. And I'll be answering questions. Let's go. So GMAT Club are actually helping us and are going to mark some of the questions at the bottom. Okay, so great question. And Grace is asking, should we, well, you can see the question, but should we use 2 recommendations from the same manager, same employer, and one from a formal one? Again, it's very, very, very specific about you. Okay, so it's very hard for me to answer this. But if you have 4 years of experience and you've been working 3.5 years in one company, in your current company, so yeah, you should probably just use 2 managers from your current company. If you were working 2 years and 2 years, yes, I would love one from your previous company. So it just really, really depends on you, Grace. Okay, so hard to know, but I'll actually tell you a bit more about that. If you are using 2 recommenders from the same company, make sure they're, well, it's hard to make sure, but hopefully they're using different examples and they can share examples about you from different experiences. So for example, the first one would be your manager from your first position, and maybe he's still your manager, but the second one would be a matrix project manager that worked with you on a specific project. Okay, so just make sure they have different examples. That's it. Yes, Benjamin, great question. Yes, you can definitely start your application today and submit it whenever you want. Basically, submit it when you're ready. Until you press submit, nothing will happen. So definitely you can do that. Only when you press submit, the application will be sent. That's it. Ramit, this is actually a fantastic question, which I've never been asked before. So you get 2 points. No, if I were reading your application and now I'm reading your recommendation, and there's a spelling or grammar mistake or the English isn't very good, no, that's fine. They used to be, I need to check this again. I think in the recommenders, when they fill out their form, I think it actually says somewhere, have you used a translator or something? So the recommender can even not be a native English speaker. I wouldn't take points off if the grammar isn't so good. I would not give you points if the recommendation isn't very good. Okay, if they say Ramit was good, he's fine, average, he did what he needed to do, his average. That's it. Okay. Tanisha is asking, started working this year and you want to apply for 2024. Okay. Can you? So yes, if you have 2.5 years of experience, you have the minimum to apply to London Business School. What are your chances? Well, that depends on a million other things, right? On your GMAT, on your where do you work, on your academics, on your hobbies, on your application. Watch this video 3 times. So in theory, yes. In practical life, it depends on your application. Very good question. I love it. So is it advisable to discuss a failure? So again, first of all, if asked, yes. So, what's your some business schools, I can't remember which I saw this year. I can't remember if it's Yale or Wharton. One of the essays is, discuss a spectacular failure. Well, that's not the case at London Business School. I wouldn't volunteer a big failure that you messed up, But for example, if you founded a company and worked there for 2 years and the exit never came, and after 2 years you decided to go and work for an employer, that's not a huge failure, right? That's life. So it really depends. Okay, it really depends. At London Business School, I would not put a picture on the CV. Okay, I would only do this on schools that actually ask for it. I can't remember. I think NCAD actually asked for a picture. I can't remember other schools that actually asked for it. No reason. It's value. You might be very pretty. It's valuable space. I actually saw a CV of someone who put a picture of his family. He had a beautiful. He was quite handsome. He had a beautiful wife, and he had 2 nice babies, and they were kind of holding him, and it was in the center. And I asked him about this, and he said, "Well, the wife is blonde, and my kids are cute." And I was going, "Yeah, well, this is a business school and not a okay. So concentrate. I wouldn't put a picture if you're not asked for it." Okay, we're going to answer all the questions. Benjamin, stop asking really good questions. So yeah, that's actually a great question. So I have candidates who do something on the side. Okay, now it can be volunteering, it can be a hobby, but it can also be they have some kind of business. Okay, they started a website, they do consulting, they do something. Now maybe this is their passionate. For example, they do day trading. Okay, yes, you should mention this. The question is where, right? So should it be on the CV in parallel? If it's a big factor of you, it should be on the CV. Should it be in the professional section or maybe in the extracurricular section? Okay, come on, this is a private discussion about your profile, so we'll decide there. And definitely then you can emphasize this in the essay. Yeah. Next. Zola, again, I'm not a very marketing person, so thanks. But check us out on aringo.com. Yeah, thank you. GMAT Club are asking. And you can just Google Aringo prices and you'll find us. Okay, how are we with the questions? Actually, this is such a great question, so thank you. What happens if you have a gap in your professional experience? Okay, so I think a gap is okay as long as it's something that that you can explain. Okay, so let me give an example. I was laid off. My company laid off 50% of the people due to COVID, and I actually got sick, and it took me, and I worked half a year on my GMAT, and only now I'm starting to work again. Yeah, I think that's a good example. And during that year, I was running an NGO. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I'm not going to hold that back. But I actually spoke now to a candidate recently. I think it was 2 days ago, and he sounded really good on the phone. And then he sent me his CV later, and I saw like 3 gaps. And I was like, what was going on here? He said, yeah, I couldn't find a job. And I was like, okay, that happened. And I didn't want to close anything before I find, and it was like a 14-month gap. And this wasn't after his undergraduate. This was between his first job and his second job. And now he's been unemployed for 10 months. And I was like, what's going on now? Said, yeah, I'm still like, okay, that's not so good. So gaps are an issue. Explain them. And if you have a good reason for the gap, don't worry about it too much. Thank you. Divyesh, if you don't have voluntary activity, okay. Have a family business, yeah, fine. So remember my, what did I say? Stale cookie, dry biscuit, whatever. I can't remember what I said. I just want you interesting. You don't have to volunteer for the sake of volunteering. You don't have to do community. Don't go now and just go to the animal shelter. It's very important to go to the animal shelter, but don't do it just because Shimri said you have. Just be someone interesting. And if you tell me, listen, on the side, I work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, plus I consult to my family business, plus I work out in the gym every day. Of course, you don't volunteer, you don't have any time. So that's okay as long as you have something in this additional information. Next. Guys, I'm not the one marking the things down. That's why I'm saying next. Benjamin, you've asked too many good questions. Let's see what you're asking now. Are the interviewers from the same country? Okay. In previous years, the interviews were face-to-face. Okay. And I think executive MBAs and maybe the Sloan program used to ask you if you can come to London to interview. The executive MBA in Dubai used to ask to come to Dubai. And the full-time MBA, the MIM, the Master in Finance used to be with alumni. Again, this is in most cases in your country, if they have an alumni in your country. If you belong to one of the 155 countries. So usually it's with an alumni, usually it's face-to-face, usually from the same country. Is this necessary? No. Will they come from your background? Definitely no. It's completely random. And this year, all the interviews were online. I think I had 1 or 2 interviews which were face-to-face. And it gave the school more flexibility in giving you an interviewer which isn't from your country. Okay? They still were trying to give interviewers from the country, but I started seeing more and more random interviewers/interviewee connections. So definitely not necessarily, and that's it. Yes, Ramit, I have some good stories. Good. I want to hear them. With a non-profit. Okay, non-supportive documents. Very good question. I'm putting you up with the good questions, Ramit. So, listen, you can tell whatever story you want, okay? I'm the CEO of Coca-Cola. I fired 500 people. I volunteered 10 days a week. I built an orphanage in 6 countries in Africa. And I won a gold medal in the Olympics, okay? So, first of all, you can say whatever you want. Do they check these facts? Well, not at the initial stage. But first of all, they have to make sense. What I said right now, gold medal in the Olympics, the rest made sense. So first of all, it has to make sense. Second of all, usually in volunteering, there aren't any supporting documents. Okay, so no one's going to ask you for supporting documents from your volunteering activities. Still, I wouldn't make it up. And let me tell you why. Let's say the school really likes what you're saying, and they advance you to the interview stage, and your interviewer happens to be from your city, or happens to volunteer in that charity, or happens to kind of know what you're talking about, and he goes, Shimri, you didn't win a gold medal in the Olympics, did you? Or Shimri, you don't volunteer in the animal shelter because I go there every Saturday. And then that's it. If you caught lying, your whole application went. So I wouldn't lie, okay? I would just keep it honest, but you don't need any proof of your volunteering. How are we for time? How many more questions are we? Okay. Okay, actually, a very good question. So thank you, Abhijit. So as you know, or if you don't know, you're allowed to take the GMAT 5 times in a year and 8 times in your lifetime, as of July 2021, unless this changes. And every business school in the world will only look at your highest score. Every business school, whether you took it 1 time or 5 times. Let me also explain why. Let's say you take the GMAT and you score 730. Great score, right? I, as a London Business School interviewer, will look and say, great, 730, well done. Now, let's look at Abhijit, and he got 610 in his first attempt, 640 in his second, 700 in his third, 640 in his fourth, and 730 in his fifth. I think that's great. It actually shows real motivation. It shows that, you don't give up. Thumbs up. Okay, so both our candidates, candidate A and candidate B, they get the same thumbs up. Bottom line, the school will just take the highest score. London Business School asks in the online application how many times you've taken the GMAT. They only use this for the statistics. Don't worry about it. It doesn't take off points or add points. Score the highest score you can. Don't worry about the number of attempts. Don't worry about canceling scores, no canceling. Highest GMAT, that's what counts. Scholarships. Sad story. To get London Business School has lots of scholarships. I think I did mention in the last presentation, part 1 about London Business School, down there somewhere. What was the number last year in scholarships? But I just don't remember. It was double digits in £1 million of scholarships. I don't remember what the number was, 20, 30, 40 million pounds in scholarships. What are the criteria? Well, you have to be special, Pooja. And what does it mean special? If you come from an overrepresented background and your GMAT is mediocre and you work for a company that a lot of other people work for and your profile is okay, so fine, you're a solid candidate, but you're not going to get a merit-based scholarship. If you come from a very special place, if your GMAT is very high, if your work experience is very unique, that will raise your chances. So again, it's not just about diversity and coming from a special country, it's just about your entire application. If the application is very, very strong in all aspects, academic, professional, extracurricular, the way you express yourself, your recommendations, your interview was perfect, you will be a good candidate for the merit base. I think this is the last question. Okay, so Zola, this is a great question. And the question is, I'm going to answer yes and no. Okay, the question is, okay, I have 2 candidates. Let's go for very regular candidates. They're accountants at EY. It's a very big accounting firm. One comes from a small country in Africa. One comes from an overrepresented country, let's say India. Okay, both have worked 4 years. Both are manager level. Both are whatever. So London Business School doesn't have a cap for Nigeria candidates and doesn't have a cap for Indian candidates. Okay, there's no cap. But maybe they received 6,000 candidates from applications from India and only 6 from Nigeria. Maybe this is round 2 and they've already accepted to the class 30 candidates from Nigeria and only 4 from India. So remember, they will try and build their class in a very diverse way. So there's no cap per country or per background. But again, if they've already accepted or if they've received many applications from the same kind of background, of course, someone from another background will get additional points in his application. I think I gave in the last presentation an example. I worked with a candidate that worked in a startup that they managed to make energy from sea waves. Okay. And he didn't have a good GMAT. To be honest, he was only 1 year in this company. I hope he's not watching. Nothing was special in his profile. But I told him, listen, I don't know many other people that work in companies that try and produce energy from sea waves. This is special. So that was diverse. Now, most 95% of the candidates, no, they work in regular companies, they have regular jobs, and they're regular people. And it is what it is. So just try and write the best possible application you can. Okay, are we done? What do we have? Okay, I think this will be the last answer for now. Again, check us out on aringo.com for other information. Working for a not so well-known company. Will it give me an edge? If it's a market leader or not? So I actually get this question so many times. I get it by young candidates who call me like after the undergraduate degree and say, listen, Shimri, I have 2 job offers. My dream is London Business School MBA in 4 years, but I need you to help me now. And I can go and work at Procter & Gamble as an intern. By the way, I might be fired after 8 months, but it's Procter & Gamble, right? Amazing. It's a big known Unilever, McKinsey, Google, Coca-Cola, tier 1 brand. Or option 2, I was offered to be a marketing manager in a startup. Wow, marketing manager, not an intern. Minor detail, this startup is not, it's not going anywhere. In 6 months, they're going to close. Okay, what's better? Yeah. And the answer is there isn't better. Okay, I always tell them do whatever's good for you. Both stories are very good for an MBA. So whether you go for a big international company, yes, that adds 2 points. Okay, that's great. But in a smaller, less known company, you might have more advanced options to get promoted or to have a bigger ownership over things. And that might be a great experience as well. So the bottom line, do whatever is good for you, and both stories can happen. Okay, that's it. I can see there's more questions. Send me your profile, send me your GMAT and your CV. I'll try and answer that on a personal level. I've really enjoyed it, an hour and a half, but it was good, I hope. Really good questions. So golden points to whoever asked questions. Don't forget to check us out on aringo.com. And I love this. Good luck, everyone. And LBS is the best business school. Bye for now. Bye.